Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchy Dave.
And we hope this character build hits you like a shield bash to the face. Hey, jump down in the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
We're going to delve into our player's handbook because there's been several people that have asked us through various modes of communication on the interwebs, will you guys do a shield character build? So basically, your sword and board fighter, or it could be an axe, could be a club, whatever. Primary hand is a weapon, your offhand is your shield.
So there's a couple different things that we looked at here, and we're going to talk about both of them, but there is definitely cause for champion or battle master. But so where do we start? Do we start all the way at the beginning, or do we dive into the archetypes first and build backwards?
Let's start with the archetype and why we would go that route.
All right.
So you said battle master and I said champion.
Now, when I was looking at this, when you brought the premise to me, I was thinking more Captain America. All right, I've got the shield. I'm going to do all these cool things, and every once in a while I'll do something with my offhand. I wasn't picturing it as all right, I've got my longsword here and my shield here, and I'm going to fight every once in a while and do something here. So I was like, all right, well, what kind of cool things could I do with my shield? Well, as a fighter, I'm going to dive into Battle Master. And the things that I liked for Battle Master specifically was the maneuvers evasive footwork, which allows you to increase your AC while you're moving around. Hey, let's face it, you've got a shield, use it to the maximum advantage. Parry, when another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction and expend a superiority die to reduce the damage. Also great. And then I went with pushing attack because that one made the most sense of, okay, well, I've got this shield. I'm just going to shove them out of the way. But there are a number of other different things that would work based off of what specifically you wanted to do with the shield.
So I feel like you jumped the gun a little bit with the fighter. For the first thing, you should probably choose your fighting style.
Well, that part is easy. I would go with defense for the +1 armor class. I see a character who's using the shield as, okay, this is going to be someone who's locking behind that and, bearing down on it, covering as much of his body as possible.
Okay, so I went with champion, and I went with champion because I want multiple fighting styles. And I feel like there's several that kind of work. One of them is kind of like open for interpretation because we were discussing that a little bit off camera. So first of all, I actually went protection. I'm like, you know what? I want this character to be using that shield all the time with different actions, right? So reaction, as I believe it says a reaction, as long as I have an ally adjacent to me, I can give disadvantages to people that attack them. So I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, I'm good at using the shield for myself, but also my buddy as well. And in the shield wall, that's kind of how it worked anyway.
He's looking out for everybody else. I'm looking out for me. Yeah.
So, well, not wholly, because then there's like 2-weapon fighting. If you're using your shield as a weapon as well, that's going to allow you your strength bonus to the damage, and that's going to come in handy because improvised weapons don't do very much damage. If your DM would say qualify that as an offhand weapon. Technically, they don't have the right properties for using a shield punch, so you might need to take the feat dual weapon wielder as well, and so it becomes a greater investment on whether you want it or not. And again, there's the problem of is the shield technically a weapon?
Well, if the shield is going to fall into a weapon and you've gone through 2-weapon fighting, dual weapon master, Tavern Brawl to actually be proficient with it, would you want dueling to just add a straight up +2 to damage?
Well, you can't. That becomes the problem that we discussed earlier.
Well, right. Then you would need to get a fighting style from somewhere else.
No. Dueling doesn't apply if you have a weapon in your other hand.
Ah, okay.
And if we're saying the shield is now a weapon, but we technically know from Raw, the shield is not a weapon when dealing with the dueling system, fighting feat. But if we take other feats to make it technically a weapon in our hands, does that change the dueling? Because that's the other place you could go as well, is dueling. and you do all the defensive stuff and it's totally legit, until you take Tavern Brawler and it becomes an improvised weapon in your hands. So then like that's a part that needs a little more thinking about.
Right.
So there's 3 feats or 3 fighting styles right there potentially that could work together or not, depending on interpretation.
Right.
Now, the other one that I was really actually thinking about though was defensive. So I was thinking champion because at first level I could start with protection and then get defensive at 10th level,
Right.
If I chose. Or I thought about some multi-class combinations to get more fighting styles as well. Whether it's whether it would be worth it or not, who knows. But that does bring us to feats because this character is going to have to rely on a few.
Absolutely. And as we talked about, if you're going to be trying to fight with your shield, you 100% are going to need Tavern Brawler because the shield is not a weapon. I looked through.
That's my second pick. It's not my first.
Well, the first pick is Shield Master.
Which is really good.
Which that one is fantastic. 170 in your player's handbook. There's a bunch of cool things that you can do with it.
It essentially gives you evasion. If you have to make a dexterity saving throw, it lets you add your shield bonus to your dexterity saving throw. Those 2 things alone are really cool, especially for a fighter who might have a weakness when it comes to dexterity and does not have proficiency in dexterity saving throws. So this shores up a weakness, gives an added benefit. Well, then in addition to that, as a bonus action, you can make a shove attack with your shield.
Get on the ground.
and if you lead with that and you knock people over, then your rest of your attacks have advantage. So, that was the other thing I was thinking, like why I might not want a multi-class is because, a fighter that's shoving people on the ground and then potentially getting, 4 to 8 attacks is going to be pretty brutal with advantage.
Yes. That's doubling the chance for crits, guys.
Yeah, it becomes a nasty bit of business there.
So if now I'm definitely seeing going down the vein of champion, that becomes a much greater advantage.
Oh, why so?
Well, if you're looking for the higher chance to crits because of the advantage,
yes,
superior critical, critting on an 18 plus, that increases your chances by 10%. Now when you're rolling with advantage, it's even more so.
But that being said, the Battlemaster does get more dice to drop when he does his damage.
That's true.
So they definitely both have instances. So I kind of cut you off with going Shieldmaster first, but then we're looking at Tavern Brawler.
Tavern Brawler is going to actually give you proficiency to actually smack things with your shield. Increase your strength or con by 1. Always useful for a fighter type character. Proficiency with improvised weapons. Your unarmed strikes deal 1d4. And when you hit a creature with an unarmed strike or an improvised weapon, you can use a bonus action to attempt to grapple. Not always going to be useful, but every once in a while that might just work when it's like, oh, you're up in front with the spellcaster. Well, it might be much better to just grapple his ass than to...
Well, here's what I would say about that, all right? It kind of overlaps with Shieldmaster because of that bonus action. But that being said, like if you want to actually straight up do damage as well as do the grapple action, you have that option.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be less damage. So that's what you have to decide. Is it worth doing the D4 damage as one of your attacks plus and technically. I guess technically, 2-weapon. I don't know how that interacts with 2-weapon fighting. Again, like that becomes a question. Like it's technically in your offhand, but it's not really a weapon. It's an improvised weapon, so it doesn't meet the criteria. So like there's like some weirdness going on there. But I guess the other part of that is if you're ever disarmed, you could straight up just use your shield to beat the piss out of people.
There's a couple different things. It says with Tavern Brawl, it says you're proficient with improvised weapons, which means you can turn things into a weapon. Dual Wielder says you master fighting with 2 weapons. It doesn't say, oh, in order to do this, like while wielding a separate melee weapon in each hand. Okay, well, I don't know. It does require a bit of a GM stretch. RAI.
Well, I think like it's weird. It is weird, but I think it does work because I think the instant you take you take Tavern Brawler, that shield is now a weapon because of it's been reclassified because you have an exception to the rules. So going off of that, you can go to the next rule and go, oh, when you have two weapons, and it kind of applies.
Right.
But
So
it does run into the problem, and we do not have enough fighting styles. We need them all.
well, that's this technically what you can get 4 if you take Ranger, Paladin, Fighter, and Champion.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It would be ridiculous. And, yeah, it'd be a weird build. But I do kind of like the single class champion who just builds this out. You're a fighter, you're going to get more feats than anybody else. So you do have something to play with. But it just becomes like, well, what kind of shield fighter you want to be? Yeah, like you could forego Tavern Brawler and just take the shield mastery, and you're still that's the least investment. And you're still going to have the fighting styles. You're still going to do cool stuff. But, if you really want to define this character, the way he fights by the shield, then you have all these other options you can tag onto it that, may require you to work with your GM. Me personally, I would allow it. If you're going to invest that many resources into being good with this one thing, go for it. And just hope you never end up having to fight without a shield. Because you're like, wow, this is like all my feats.
So I will say, if I were to push this character, and I'm definitely seeing your side of things, that the champion does have a good build setup, I would actually go into Martial Adept and pick up the couple battle maneuvers
That you had mentioned.
that I'd mentioned.
Yeah, I had actually thought about that too after you had said Battle Master.
So that's the thing. Every once in a while, those cool class features, you do have a way to get them through feats. Can't get you improved crit that way, but you can get some maneuvers.
Yeah. So essentially, it's basically, in my opinion, straight champion. I'm like in defensive and protection. I like the idea of being able to use my reaction every round, and possibly, and being able to use my bonus action every round. So for action economy, it's really good.
Indeed.
It's thematic. Even if you're just shoving people to the ground with your shield, getting advantage on your attacks, and you're the fighter, so you get the most attacks.
And the great part is it's not going to be just advantage for you. If you get them prone, everybody else gets advantage too.
That's true. And ideally, you're working with your buddy, the paladin or the barbarian or whatever, because you've been granting him, disadvantage on attacks coming into him. So he's right there with you.
Indeed.
It's like a real fun, like, team player type build. And then I think there is some other characters that get abilities where they can kind of do the same thing. I'm not sure, but I think one of the barbarian features does something similar. I just remember, or a paladin that has protection as well. You guys could just fight next to each other and just give everyone disadvantage all the time. So there's definitely some fun things you could do with that.
Absolutely. So what do you guys think of the shield fighter? Would you use this in your game? Let us know in the comments below while you're down there. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.